Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about what are blends, why are blends created. Now before we begin, I highly recommend you check out our back catalog of episodes, especially the Fundamentals of Tea playlist, and I'll also make sure I put some pertinent episodes up here. So what's a blend? A blend is simply mixing two different types of teas or even tea cultivars together to make a new tea, essentially a blend. And tea blends are exceedingly popular here in the West. In fact, most tea that we drink as Americans are going to be blends because the majority of tea that Americans drink are bulk export CTC, crushed chair, curled iced tea. So iced tea, sometimes we forget that iced tea is actually the same. It's from the same tea plant as what we drink, a kind of loose leaf tea, but that's going to be black tea and that's going to be CTC. And CTC is when they crush it to essentially pulverize it. And so when you drink your big name brand iced teas, it's not going to be a Keeman, just a Keeman, or it's not going to be just a Ceylon black of some cultivar in Sri Lanka. It's going to be a mixture of different ones. Also, you look at English tea. English tea is very, very popular. I mean, the name is very popular. That too is going to be a blend. And why do they do blends? And there's more. Russian Caravan is another very famous blend. That's going to be Lapsang Souchong, an oolong, and a Keeman. Why do they do blends? Well, because see, the thing is, let's step back. So when you look, especially in black teas, you're going to see orthodox versus CTC. So orthodox is going to be the leaf. You still have the intact leaf. So if you think of something like Darjeeling, those tend to be orthodox. And then CTC is the majority of black tea that is made today because there is such an insatiable market for iced tea and for just kind of, I wouldn't say low grade, but just the mass marketed tea bag black teas, English teas, Earl Grey teas. And so there's this gigantic market for CTC. And so CTC, they put the leaves in this machine to pulverize it. And so what happens is when you pulverize it to that, it gives it a very strong, robust flavor because it's been fully oxidized beyond belief because it's to a pulverized state. But it's kind of a one-dimensional flavor profile. And so it's not going to be that popular. And so what do? Tea experts, tea scientists, tea boards around the world are going to play around with different blends, different CTC blends, because they're not necessarily going to mix a CTC with an orthodox. That doesn't make sense. So they're going to pick a little blends from here. They're going to pick CTC teas from here, and then try to concoct a blend that seems to have a great complex flavor profile. Because with orthodox tea leaves, there is going to be a complex flavor profile because let's say you look at white peony, look at our white peony. It's a different category of tea that we're talking about than black tea. But you'll see it's got leaf, it's got some buds, but it's mostly leaves, and then a lot of the twigs and so forth. So it's grabbing from different parts of the Camellia sinensis plant. Therefore, it's going to have different complexity. Look at the tips. Look at like Ceylon strip tips. Look at the leaves that have white points at the end. You look at the outer part of the tea leaf is going to have a different structure than the inside, and then it's going to have a little of the twig, and so all these different parts of the orthodox tea leaf have a different taste. So when you infuse that entire leaf and a bunch of those entire leaves, it's going to have a much more complex flavor profile than if you were just to get a leaf and pulverize it. And so that we're going to do blends because blends are more popular. And remember, today we live in such an export commodity driven world of tea that they want to make money, understandably so, to reimburse all their investment. So they need to find blends that are very popular. So let's look at some very famous blends. You look at a typical breakfast blend from England or English teas. You're going to see a combination of typically Keeman, which is from China. Then you're going to see Kenyan black. Kenya produces so much CTC, bulk export for iced tea. And then you're going to see Ceylon. Those are the three that are typically going to be in a breakfast blend. But look, a company like Twinings, for example, you'll find 17 or so different teas in their blends. So they're just grabbing something from here, all over the typically former British colonial holdings. And then their food scientists, their tea scientists are going to find the right ratio. And it's interesting because if you look at like a breakfast blend that they're selling in India, as opposed to one they're selling in Sri Lanka, as opposed to what they're selling in Wales, as opposed to one they're selling in Bermuda, they're going to be different blends because they know that people from different cultures and customs are going to like a different flavor profile. But we're just looking at famous ones. So that's the typical breakfast blend. If you look at something like Earl Grey. So Earl Grey is about 10% the bergamot oil, the bergamot infusion that gives it kind of a citrusy taste. But if you look at the actual thing, it's typically going to be about a third Darjeeling, a third Ceylon black, and then a third Assam from the eastern part of India. You look at something like Russian Caravan, as we already talked about, that's going to be a quarter Lapsang Souchong, which is that smoky black that's in China. I love that one. It's going to be about a quarter of an oolong, typically a highly oxidized oolong. And then you're probably looking at Keeman. You know, Keeman is a reoccurring one that you find in these. And then you can look at there's other blends. I mean, look at Genmaicha. Genmaicha is going to be 50% Japanese green tea, 50% rice. You look at Monk's Blend. I mean, there's tons of blends out there. But the whole point of blends is when you're just grabbing one and pulverizing one, it's going to have a unique taste, but it's not going to have a complex taste. And when we drink tea, even though you might not notice it, or maybe you didn't notice it when you're drinking tea bag tea, we, the body, like a complex flavor, a complex liqueur, a complex everything. And so they do blend to kind of optimize that. Kind of in the food world, you know, the bliss point, you might have heard that what food scientists use, where they try to find the perfect snacks that are that perfect ratio of sugar, salt, and sweetness. It's kind of the same thing with blends. They're looking to grab different teas from different parts of the world to come up with this perfect concoction, and that's why we have a lot of blends. So anytime you're drinking a black tea from a tea bag, it is almost guaranteed to be a blend. And if you don't want that, then I highly recommend you drink orthodox tea, loose leaf tea, and all the tea, of course, Casey and I have are going to be in that category, so come check it out at the tea shop. Guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Until next time, take care and God bless.